Hello and welcome back to the DVD Clutter Podcast. I'm Heather and I'm joined by
Mattie.
And this is the second part of our two-part special on the good, the bad, and the ugly.
$200,000 is a lot of money. We're gonna have to earn it.
So, Mattie, where did we leave off at the end of part one?
Well, when we last left our anti-heroes, So-and-so, What's-Her-Face, and the Ugly One were all now united on the same journey to this military cemetery, a makeshift cemetery, where in one of the graves, and only Blondie knows which one, they can find $200,000 worth of gold pieces in a cash box. And the following half of the film traces their steps as they weave in and out of different front lines, different prison camps, different sides of the American Civil War in the search for wealth and ease of life. What did you think of it?
Well, I thought that it was really a harrowing second half of the movie. I was really invested in it. And I was actually surprised rewatching it this time because we talked a lot in part one about the war being kind of in the backdrop. And in the second half of the movie, it's definitely a lot more prominent. You know, they're really in the thick of it. Tuco and, well, really all three of them. Angel Eyes has kind of infiltrated a troop of soldiers, and he's become a, not commander, but sort of like a...
Yeah, he's basically running the camp under the nose of the actual commander. It's a prison camp. It's kind of a Union version of the Andersonville prison camp. So you basically have the American Civil War equivalent of a concentration camp, that these two characters get stuck in and imprisoned in and then tortured because Angel Eyes is looking for the money as well. I love that little detail that, like, Angel Eyes, he's trying to find this guy, Bill Carson, to find where the money is. So he embeds himself into the prison camp, which is, if he's alive, he'll end up there. But during that time, he's basically turned the whole prison camp into a money-making operation for him. It's this whole, like, grift that he's got going on as he's stealing and torturing all of the soldiers and then, like, selling off their goods to bandits outside of the camp. It's like, that's capitalism. That's the American dream.
He's having a grand old time there at that camp. I mean, he's pretty sadistic in a lot of his, in some of the stuff he does. And, we find Tuco and Blondie come to be part of the camp at one point, and Tuco takes on, the name of Bill Carson. And Angel Eyes is like, why are you calling yourself that? Do you happen to know something that I need to know about? Like,
one name is as good as another, right? Mm-hmm. It's the Man with No Name trilogy,
Tuco trying to, talk himself out of yet another situation that he's gotten himself into. And then we get a lot of war scenes, actually, after we get a pretty big battle scene that comes up shortly after that. Which is, I feel like in this part of the movie, I think the movie is kind of making a little bit of a statement. I think it does take a stance on where it stands in regards to the war, I think. I think that it's almost like, because I feel like Blondie especially is almost, I don't want to say apathetic, because he certainly has feelings towards, the guys who are getting killed in front of him. But I also feel like he just sees it as a complete waste.
Yeah. It's making its statement on the war, but I think it's making its statement on the Vietnam War, or maybe even World War II. That battle scene is interesting because, again, it's just like these two factions that they just keep fighting over this same piece of infrastructure. And the idea is, like, one of them gets it and then they can't hold on to it. And I kept thinking of like Hamburger Hill and all of these different sort of useless fake battles that killed so many people in Vietnam. That was going on at the time the film was made and at the time it was becoming popular in the U.S. as far as the Civil War, I don't think it really does much to take a stand on like slavery or,
No.
that. I think that the characters in the film, they're so cynical about kind of standing for anything except your own self-interest. And I feel like now that's like such a common thing as like, people self-professing that, it was something that was like you could sort of trace that worldview back to like our childhoods. It was kind of seen as like cool if you don't care too much about anything. And now it's just like, it's just so tired, in a way.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting, you bring up that it's not making a statement on slavery, and you're totally right. I mean, the only perspective that we're getting here are from the white soldiers, both, the Yankee and the Confederates. And really the regard for human life that Blondie has, it's only in relation to him. There's like the one scene where he gives the dying Confederate soldier his coat and lets him like smoke his cigarette and kind of stays with him until he dies. And it's kind of it definitely like got me a little bit emotional in the moment, but yeah, his reactions are all in relation just to like the white soldiers that he's interacting with. There's really nothing about slavery or, about people of color, black people, or, the people that he, with Tuco and like the other guys that are, around him that are, Mexican. And there's no statement on race in the movie.
He says, "I've never seen so many men wasted so badly during the bridge battle."
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, have you seen slavery? Have you seen what was going on in the U.S. leading up to this?
Yeah, and it got me kind of thinking because even, all this stuff is going on around them, but they're still just focused on finding this gold because they just don't really care about whatever else is going on. They're just, like you said, it's very one, like every man for himself sort of thing.
And they're still constantly double crossing each other every chance they get. Any chance, Blondie switches sides to Angel Eyes, but then Angel Eyes is basically like holding him prisoner as they go. So Blondie just gets back with Tuco and then kills all of them. And then Tuco's trying to get away from Blondie and Blondie's firing cannons at him. And then, it all culminates in that gunfight at the Sand Hill Cemetery with the three of them in a circle and these driftwood looking graves just stretching out from horizon to horizon in some of the most incredible imagery ever put to film, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a really fantastic sequence. It's just so good, and it's drawn out just enough, that it's just the tension there, the way the music is used, it's really just brilliantly done. It's just like you've come so far in this journey with them, then you get all three of them together there in that last scene, and it's like, all right, who's gonna be the last man standing? Who's gonna actually outwit, the other one? And well, the first man down is Angel Eyes. He's the first to go. Blondie shoots him.
I think it was Roger Ebert who said that, like, during that sequence, there are two possibilities. Either everybody shoots in a circle and they all die, or two of them gang up on somebody, but which two are going to gang up on which one? And it's not entirely clear until that final moment.
Yeah. And it turns out that Blondie, kind of knowing Tuco pretty well at this point, actually took the bullets out of Tuco's gun because he figured Tuco's going to do something really stupid here, and I'm going to make sure he doesn't do that. And so Tuco's kind of like, oh man, Blondie, like, you chose me? Cool, okay. It's like, cool. But we come to find out, not exactly, he leads Tuco over to the grave. And, he says one man shoots and one man digs. And, Tuco is the guy who gets to dig for the gold.
I found that so interesting watching it this time because we've been talking throughout about the different sort of racial dynamics. The fact that when Tuco's got his crimes read off to him, it makes a difference in his sentencing, whether he's raping somebody of the white race or of the black race, in the eyes of the law. And at no point in that final sequence does anybody else ever lift a finger to dig up the gold. they're both just like, well, obviously Tuco's going to be the one to do it. And Tuco's like, you know, kind of stuck doing it. And he's like, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make the most of it. And I'm going to get the gold at the end, you see, sort of thing.
Yeah.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. You dig.
He does unearth all of this gold, and, you know, he is so caught up in the moment and, like, just staring at it that he apparently doesn't realize that Blondie's been stringing up a noose next to him.
There's a lot of that in this movie where, like, you know, just like, outside of frame, there's a whole like regiment of the Union Army, or, you know, like people just sneaking up on each other, and it's like, it's open desert. How'd you sneak?
Yeah, I'm like, how convenient. And Blondie tells him, you know, you got to get up in the noose, and he's just balancing on this cross in the ground. He's got
rickety little grave.
Yeah, and it's super like you just feel that any wrong move and he's done for.
He's gonna be one more dead body among thousands in that place.
But, you know, Blondie only takes his half of the money. He's like, look, we had a deal, and I'm taking my half, and you can figure out how to get your half, basically. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm out of here. And he rides off with his half of the money, and he leaves Tuco, you know, just kind of balancing on that cross. And as Tuco is calling out, you know, he's screaming like, Blondie, Blondie. You know, the more upset he's getting, the more he's like... He's just like losing his footing, and, you know, he's just about to bite the dust when who comes back around but our man Blondie. Blondie the good.
That's why he's the good.
Blondie the good, and he takes one last shot at that rope, lets him go, and
what do you make of that whole situation with Blondie? You know, that whole scheme of humiliating Tuco one last time before letting him have his money.
I don't really know what the point was, because we all know, like, Tuco immediately just starts running after him, and he's like, you know what you are? You're a dirty son of a bitch. And that's how the movie ends. And it's like, Tuco's gonna, you know, I guess at this point, Blondie's feeling is, I'm done with Tuco now. I'm not going to screw him over. You know, we had a deal. I'm going to let him take his money, but I'm going to make it real difficult for him. And, you know, it's kind of, I think it goes back to that also, sort of that thing of the white guy is the good guy. And he's like, look at him. He's only taken half of his money, and he's still, you know, but he's got to teach this guy a lesson first, you know, and they're both terrible people. Like,
yeah. I think that there are two things at play there. I think, first of all, I think Blondie, who does seem to sort of like get a little bit, you know, he squints when somebody dies who he doesn't think deserves it. If anybody else kills anybody but him, he seems a little sad about it. And, you know, Tuco let Shorty die, you know, for the sake of him getting his own revenge on Blondie. Mm-hmm. And Tuco put him up in the noose earlier in the film when he was originally trying to get his revenge for Blondie, you know, missing the shot and then leaving Tuco out in the desert. So, you know, Tuco was sort of getting his revenge. So I think this was sort of a belated, like, okay, we both gotten what we wanted, but I still owe you one. Yeah. And, you know, I want you to feel the way that Shorty felt in, you know, in that last moment of his life.
Yeah. It's kind of a very bizarre dynamic between them, because they do have moments throughout the movie where they're like, all right, we're squared up now. We're even. So we could just like ride this one out and sort of, you know, like there's the scene where they're in the, well, of course, after Blondie is, you know, dehydrated and basically on his deathbed, and Tuco decides, oh crap, you know what, I better get you some water, because you know where, you know, you know where the money is. And so he takes him to this, like, where his brother is
the monastery.
The monastery. And, you know, his Tuco's brother is a priest there, and, you know, they basically him and his brother have this quick little conversation. His brother's like, our parents died and, you weren't there. And Tuco's like, look, you could either be a bandit or you could be, like a man of the faith. And I chose the hard way,
Yeah.
And there's like this kind of little moment after that where Blondie and him, take off again. He
shares the cigarette and he's like Tuco's weaving this very obvious lie about how much he and his brother love each other and how it's like, oh, he never wants to let me get away whenever we're nearby. Tuco also just found out that his parents are dead and that like his brother was away tending to them while he was chasing after this gold.
Right.
But yeah, there is something like, this might just be me projecting, but like there always struck me as like something a little bit flirty between Blondie and Tuco that it's like they're playing this like weird mind game with each other, but they're also like they do sort of seem to like enjoy getting under each other's skin a little bit. Yeah. There's
like a little bit of something going on.
It's like
there.
who's getting put in the rope this time?
No, we're probably reading too much into that, but also I think that there is some kind of, I think they both do derive like a little bit of pleasure out of, sort of fucking with each other. And I don't know if you'd call it friendship, but I don't know what it is in the movie, but he seems to still, I mean, Blondie certainly doesn't trust Tuco, but I think that he sort of understands him in a way that he doesn't maybe understand angel eyes, and so he's kind of like, I better just stick with the devil I know, because I sort of know I could kind of anticipate Tuco's moves a bit.
I think part of it is that Tuco is the easier to manage between the two of them, and I think part of it is, even though they're just waiting to kill each other, in the meantime, they're the only friends that each other have.
Yeah. And they're stuck in the freaking middle of nowhere, both trying to do the same thing. So it's like, well, I guess we'll just talk to each other and share a cigarette while we're at it.
I really do kind of appreciate this dynamic in that there is like behind all of the scheming and all of the tension, there is a kind of humanity for these characters underneath it all. And I love when the scenes where that comes out, in those moments when they're able to be vulnerable. I love this movie so much. It still holds up. Everything about it. That last half hour or so where it's just one banger image after another, like just breathtaking shots and music, and Ennio Morricone turning in probably one of the all-time great film scores of all time, in my opinion.
It's amazing. And it's actually like super catchy. And I just, it just captures everything, because you hear that music and it's just, it really gets you, like you're just so in the moment with them. And I have to say, like, I feel like for a 3-hour movie, no second is really wasted. I don't feel like there's any moments where I'm like, oh, you could cut that from the movie. I feel like everything is just driving the plot along, and the score is there. Just, it's so powerful, and it's, it's just like everything is working so beautifully together in this movie.
We did watch the extended cut, so parts of it were cut from the movie, and those are the scenes that I think probably where I'm like, okay, we don't really need this scene, but also that could just be the fact that they're dubbing it 50 years later and it sounds weird.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't know the difference because I haven't seen the other version, but I feel like, for the most part, I'm in it for the whole movie. Like, there's just so much going on, and it's just constantly moving, forward, and it's just a really brilliantly done movie. Everything about it is really just fantastic, and you can see how much this movie is responsible for so many other films that came after,
Well, now we've got to go back at some point and watch the other films in the trilogy and Once Upon a Time in the West, and I think we got to get you watching Yojimbo and maybe even The Seven Samurai.
Oh, I don't know about that.
But here's the interesting thing about The Seven Samurai is that The Seven Samurai was remade as The Magnificent Seven, a Western, and the villain is played by Eli Wallach, originally playing a Mexican. This was before.
Oh, interesting.
That character, as I recall, I haven't seen it in probably about 20 years. I remember that character in The Magnificent Seven being very, very one-dimensional. Mm-hmm. Just malicious villain, nothing really underneath. And this time, you know, I feel like Tuco's really got a lot of depth. Mm-hmm. You know, even though he's often played for comic relief, he's got a little bit of like a Bugs Bunny aspect to him, where he's like wisecracking, but it's also meant to kind of disarm people.
Yeah. So
they underestimate him. So he can, you know, complain about, I can't pee while you're watching me, and it's completely in character that he's putting on, and then he can jump off the train and knock you, and crush your skull with a rock.
Or like, this guy's gonna go take a bubble bath right now, but then it turns out he's got his like gun strapped to him, in the tub, and I have to say, Tuco is my favorite character in the movie. Like, I know that Eli Wallach is not, the correct casting necessarily for this movie, but he did a good job playing the character.
I appreciate the performance.
Yeah,
I have to admit, I appreciate it.
Like a real person. He feels like a well fleshed out character, and
again, like, please feel free to disagree with us on this point as well.
Absolutely.
Obviously, again, like I've said, like, the casting bothers me. But I have not heard, like, I'm not aware of any sort of controversy about it. And I wonder if it might just be because everybody kind of likes the character. Everybody kind of likes the performance. Or maybe not. Maybe I'm missing, a huge backlash that just is not showing up in my Google search. And I'm open to hearing that as well.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I love it.
I enjoy the performances from everybody. I have to say, actually, Clint Eastwood is my least favorite performance in the movie. He's doing his Clint Eastwood thing, and that's fine. Like, he's great as the character that he's playing. I was kind of reading that Lee Van Cleef's career was not exactly going great until he started, until he started working with Sergio Leone, and and these movies kind of revived his career a bit. And I think he's really intimidating as Angel Eyes. I think that out of the three, I am most like, because I think he really is. I think he actually is like very sadistic and enjoys kind of, doing what he's doing and torturing people. And I think there's like more than just, I'm an outlaw, I think there's like something else going on there.
Well, it's also like at the beginning of the movie, he's going to kill this guy, and the guy gives him $1,000, and my reading on him giving him the money is, I'll give you the money if you don't kill me.
Right.
He takes the $1,000, kills the guy, and then goes and kills the guy that hired him to kill the first guy. Yeah. Because he's like, well, that's obviously what he gave me the money for, right? And I always follow my job through. And he's the only one that kind of claims any sort of ethics, but like, it's also the most savage. So that's why he's the bad.
Yeah, he's bad. He's very bad. But I think like, the cast overall, everything about it is just kind of works really, really well together. And I never thought that I would be sitting here saying I enjoyed a spaghetti Western, but here we are.
Well, you are Italian.
I am Italian. That's right. That must be why. But it must be in my blood, because shout out to my dearly departed grandpa, but he loved Clint Eastwood, and I never got to watch any of these old movies with him, but we did go see Gran Torino together, and my grandpa was loving seeing Clint on the big screen. So, and I know he was a fan of this movie and like his other westerns. So, it's there. This one's for grandpa. So. But, so I think we are pretty well decided that we will be keeping the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I would say so.
Yeah, I think it can definitely.
We're packing it up on the back of the mule, and we're riding off into the sunset. Well, that concludes our two-parter here. So, Mattie, what's on deck for our next episode? Well, you know me. I always like to have like some sort of connection with some sort of current event, a current release or something like that. I'm about 2 months late to the party with the Netflix adaptation of Lord of the Flies.
Okay.
But we do have a copy, a Criterion copy of the 1960s adaptation, the black and white film. And I don't think either of us have ever seen this one in its entirety.
I have not seen any film adaptation of Lord of the Flies.
So that's my pick for next episode.
Cool. I'm interested to get into that, because I've been reading a lot of Lord of the Flies inspired literature over the last few years. I have read Lord of the Flies, actually, within the last few years, and I just read The Troop by Nick Cutter, and so a lot of sort of interesting parallels. We also have The Long Walk by Stephen King, so interested to sort of see the film adaptation and maybe talk about some of those other good, sort of Lord of the Flies-esque stories. And yeah, we'll get into it on the next episode. So we'll see you next time on
DVD Clutter.
Hello and welcome back to the DVD Putter. Okay, sorry.